Hello, and welcome to Global Data Themes Instant Insights. At Global Data, we define a theme as something that keeps a CEO awake at night, as businesses that invest in important themes will succeed, and those that don't will fail.
Hello, and welcome to Instant Insights. I'm Emma Taylor, an analyst in the Thematic Intelligence team at Global Data, and today I'm going to be talking to Antony Lam, the head of product at iProov, all about biometrics, what it is, its applications, and some future implications.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really pleased to get you on.
Thanks for having me, Emma. I'm really excited. I met Global Data about a couple months ago at an event, and I think there were a lot of overlaps and some synergies maybe between our two companies. And Sunit reached out and was like, "Hey, would you like to talk about your work?" I was like, "Yes, I would."
Well, that's what we need. We need people like you to come on and tell us everything about what you're doing, because getting insights from people in the field is the best way of learning about anything, I think. So we are going to be talking about biometrics, a touch on a bit on different applications, the technology, how it relates to AI, and some future predictions. But first, could you just tell us a bit about what you do, your company, and your role there?
Totally. I'm the head of product at a biometrics company that's based in London called iProov. We build biometrics technology where the underlying technology behind that is AI. It uses computer vision, machine learning, some technical terminology that maybe I'll go into later. That's helping companies and helping governments ensure that whoever their digital users are when they're presenting themselves, they are really who they say they are. I think what we've noticed in the past 5 years, especially accelerated by COVID, is that a lot of physical experiences or physical journeys have now moved online, right? So bank experiences have moved online. Going to the GP has now moved online. But how do you make sure that that person behind the screen that you're talking to, that patient that you're talking to, or even the doctor that you're talking to, is really that person? And so now I'm building biometrics verification tools. I'm rolling it out into the world and helping people ensure that whoever they're talking to is and should be that person.
Yeah, I guess you're so right. It's all since COVID, like it's been such a sort of hangover. People not only now would like to access these things from home digitally, but they expect it. It's like a prerequisite for most different services now. In terms of the technology, and obviously everyone's talking about AI right now. Could you talk a little bit more about how they relate to each other?
Yeah. So I guess artificial intelligence for me is it's artificial intelligence, right? It is mimicking the intelligence of humans using computers. I'll also define biometrics. I think sometimes it's not really clear what biometrics is. By definition, biometrics are the metrics or the measurement of biological characteristics. This could be the facial makeup of a human, or it could be the unique prints of your fingers or your palms. And often this is used in verification. Historically, verification was done by humans, right? So examples of this might be comparing a person with their passport photo at the border, or maybe comparing a person with their driver's license when they're trying to buy alcohol. As computers became more efficient at doing human tasks, one of these tasks was biometric verification. And AI is the technology behind all of that.
So it kind of replicates the way that humans identify other humans. So what kind of applications could you run us through some examples of how biometrics is used day to day?
Yeah. So I think anywhere where a human needs to verify you, a computer can do the same thing. So banks, traditionally, you'd have to bring your ID, your utility bills into a physical bank branch to open an account. Today, you can upload all of that online, verify your face using biometrics, and then get approved in minutes. This stuff is rolled out across Europe. The US is picking it up as well. Asia has been using biometrics for a while now. I think this one is the most comfortable use case for day-to-day. The second one, I think, is offices. As we're seeing the return of employees back into the offices, I think a lot of people are still using key cards to get through office barriers.
Yeah.
Right? Biometrics technology can allow workers to walk straight through into work, without even using their key cards, without pulling anything out, because verification happens in milliseconds. So they can detect when, Emma, you're walking through the barriers instead of pulling anything out or instead of carrying your wallet anymore. The camera just detects, this is Emma. Of course, we can let her through.
Yeah, people really expect that kind of ambient digital interaction as well now, don't they?
And that ease.
Exactly, it's seamless. Even with like Amazon fresh stores now, people they don't want to, they don't want to get anything out their pockets. They don't want to pay or whatever. It's just like walk in, walk out, walk into work. If you forget your work pass in the morning, that's just this beginning of a bad day.
That's the worst, right? And then you have to verify yourself when you get to the office if they allow that. Otherwise, you have to go home to get it.
Exactly.
Right? That's wasted time. And actually, on Amazon, they are trialing two different ways, many ways actually. You can scan a QR code to get through, right? And then they would track you based on your movements and what you buy. But you can also use your palm to walk right through.
Biometrics.
Yeah. Biometrics.
There we go. I can imagine this becoming really popular in like maybe hotels and things as well. When you go to a hotel and you lose your key card and you're like, to go to pay for a new one or whatever. If it's just, you're probably not going to lose your fingerprint or your eyeball on a night out.
Fingers crossed. Sometimes night outs can be quite wild. I think one of those considerations that I often have as somebody who is deploying biometrics and working with, new use cases is always that public perception. If you deploy it in places like a store, where stores often have cameras already, people are comfortable replacing that, right? Replacing that kind of these cameras with biometric cameras. But in places like hotels, for example, it might require more privacy. So, the patrons might not want you to know exactly which floor they're going to or who they're bringing with them, right? That might be a consideration that I would have.
Yeah, that positioning, so important. Yeah, you don't want people to feel like they're under surveillance. It's meant to be make your life easier. And in terms of so obviously that's a key challenge, like the public perception. What are some other challenges facing biometrics companies like yours?
Yeah, I think with biometrics, it's been in the news a lot, especially after George Floyd in 2020. We saw some not so good use cases of biometrics, and so the public has been more aware and more engaged in the conversation
around like facial recognition and
exactly.
Yeah.
And there are good applications of biometrics, and there are maybe some not so accurate applications. Right. And in biometrics, I separate them into two challenges. You've got the challenges of the good guys and you've got challenges of the bad guys. That's how I look at it. The good guys are asking questions like public perception related. It's questions like, is it infringing on my freedoms? Is it surveillance? Who has access to this data? And what happens if they get access to this data? Right? How can they use it against me? The other questions that they ask would be around accuracy. Is this accurate? And there are actually technological ways we can make it more accurate. So when you're comparing 1-to-1, for example, if I'm comparing, Emma with your driver's license, it's a 1-to-1 comparison. It's two faces, one face with another face. But if I'm matching you in a database, we call that identification. That's 1-to-many.
Right.
So if I'm saying, hey, who is this face? Identify this person out of 1,000 people. That accuracy is actually a bit lower.
So there's a kind of difference between identification and verification almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those are the different use cases sometimes I look at when we're deploying these things and we're trying out new use cases. How is the public going to perceive that? Is it going to be accurate enough? And is it going to be safe? Then the bad guy questions are things like, how do I break the system? How do I get access to their data?
Yeah. So those bad actors, who could have cybersecurity infringement interests and things like that. Yeah,
exactly. Because at the end of the day, the reason why you want to use biometrics verification is to stop the wrong people from accessing and to ensure that whoever is accessing something is the right person, right? The right person has access to the right bank account. The right person has access to their health data. The right person is crossing the border.
Yeah, I guess it's all about really safely establishing identity. What about recent developments There's been a lot in the news with the big wave of generative AI, you being able to generate voice or images of people. How do you think that might affect biometrics?
Yeah, to be honest, I think generative AI has been very impactful for two reasons. One, it's actually helped the bad guys generate attacks better, quicker, right? You're now able to generate faces. You're able to now generate voices, like you said, that can be similar to the real person. And so generative AI has made it easier for threat actors to break systems. But of course, as people who develop these biometric systems, it's now even pushed us further to strengthen the systems, right? To make it even better, to improve it, to defend against these new attacks. And so we're always trying to get one step ahead. And if we can't, we're trying to close the gap. It's just an arms race with the threat actors. But I think the other side of things is on the public perception piece, generative AI has actually opened a conversation with the public about AI and about the different applications of AI. And I have loved that conversation because I now, when I'm talking to somebody about AI, it's no longer a scary subject. AI is not a term now that people have never heard of or think is distant in the future. It's today. And I love that I'm able to talk about that.
Definitely. I think breaking down the perception that people have of AI as a, bad actor in a sci-fi film is just so important. Like AI is already everywhere, and it doesn't have yet its own agenda. There are obvious challenges around AI applications and bias and all those different kinds of things, but AI itself, it doesn't have the ability to understand its environment yet, its surroundings.
I think the benefit of that as well is understanding how AI can help you in your day-to-day makes it less scary, of course, but it also helps you understand that AI isn't entirely bad, and therefore technologies like biometrics that are powered by AI are not entirely bad.
Exactly. Yeah. AI does not equals bad 100% of the time. I mean, you're so right. Like it helps you day to day. It filters your emails into spam. That's helpful.
Yeah.
And so what are some predictions about the future of biometrics? Where do you think we're headed?
I think the biggest change that I'm going to see in my industry in biometrics is consumer sentiments. With this wave of AI discussion, discourse, people are going to be more and more comfortable with biometrics. The more they see it in their banks, in their offices, in travel scenarios. We've recently just deployed in the Eurostar. So now you can just cross through travel terminals without pulling out your document, without pulling out your boarding pass. You can just walk right through.
Oh, wow.
Right? That kind of experience, people will appreciate that convenience, and they're going to expect that convenience in the future.
Yeah, that is such a good point. It's so interesting how quickly people have accepted it. Like even day to day on your phone, using your fingerprint to open your phone, using your face to open your phone.
For sure. If Apple didn't release Face ID or or Touch ID back in, I think, 2016 for Touch ID, I don't think we would be where we are today. If Windows Hello was never launched in 2015, we wouldn't be where we are because these were the first mass consumer products of biometrics that allowed people to witness how it works and to also know that it's safe.
Exactly. And it worked well. I think if they'd released it and it had not been good, it would have put people off completely because it was like one of the first real big public introductions. Like if it just did not recognize you ever or never took your fingerprint, when it's done well and it is convenient, then people are so much more likely to accept it.
That's it.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. That was great.
Thanks for having me, Emma.
Thank you.